So, ladies and gentlemen, with great honor and happiness, I'm presenting you Dr. Kshipra Vasudeo. And actually, she is delivering her speech today from, you're in Maharashtra, in Mumbai, right? Right now?
Currently, I'm living in Maharashtra, but I'm originally from Madhya Pradesh, middle part of India. I study in capital
Yeah,
of
but
India, New Delhi, and my working place is Mumbai, financial capital of India. So
no,
currently,
it
I'm
used
living.
to be Madhya Pradesh. It is Chhattisgarh right now, right?
Yeah, it is Chhattisgarh, but it's a middle part of India. It's easy to understand for the student. Therefore, I stated that Madhya Pradesh, because early it was Madhya Pradesh and separated from Madhya Pradesh 2000. So
Right,
now we
right.
called Chhattisgarh. We have,
Yeah,
but
but they also heard, they also know that one. Chhattisgarh, Sablevariya.
yes, thank you so much. You acknowledge us in at your
Yeah. So,
institution.
without further introduction, I'm passing giving the floor to you. I
Yes.
guess you can introduce yourself better. Just, I would like to notify our students that they're actually very fortunate. It's their it's their second week of studies, and they already see the young, beautiful professor so close with them, age-wise, thought-wise, and heart-wise.
Thank you very much
So
for
this
kind.
year, Shipra.
Thank you so much. So, thank you very much, Professor Agbota, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to connect with his students. And especially, I love to interact with his students more than delivering lectures. And especially, cultural interaction is a more significant uh, in foreign policy, any foreign policy. So I am just a little bit introduce me about me, and then I'll start quickly because we have not much time, and topic is quite broad. And as I have promised that I will cover in my next lecture in a deeper way, but I am Dr. Kshipra Vasudeo from India. Namaskar to all of you, and good morning to all of you. And thank you to giving me this opportunity. I hope I will give my best. And currently, I'm teaching at the University of Mumbai as assistant professor. Um, I'm teaching cyber security and strategic studies, and I have been teaching to undergraduate student political science and international relation. I have been writing Indian foreign policy towards Africa, Indian Ocean, and and Russia, and also keep presenting my paper at various national and international conferences. I'm deeply into in Indian foreign policy, but at the same time Indian culture and history, and especially our far neighborhood policy. And yes, and I did my master MPhil PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. So that's it. My small introduction, and now I'm start my lecture. Professor, can I start?
Sure. For like, as there are so many people here online, so I will be turning my video and camera, so there will be no interruptions. But we're all here. Yeah.
No
But
problem.
if you would like to see the students, we can request some of them to turn on their cameras so that you will see the beautiful and young faces.
Yeah, I would like because I can more concentrate and
Yes,
let.
it will be easier for you. But camera, the audios will be turned off for us. So the
Yes,
floor is all yours. Yeah,
yes.
you're
Thank you.
the queen today.
Yes, I'm sharing my PowerPoint. So yes, now I am starting my lectures. So today I'll discuss and explain about historical roots of India's, which we call Bharat foreign policy from civilization to contemporary strategy. But as I have discussed with Professor Agbota, that I will more cover in our next lecture, civilizational influence in India's foreign policy. So before we start our lecture today, I would explain briefly about the Indian geography and history. As this picture is I got from the internet, but it tells us a lot of things about the Indian culture, masalas, spices, and ancient naval worship, and that is stated that maritime Silk Route shaped the historical trajectory of East and Southeast Asia. I will discuss this later. And agenda of today's lecture is first to determine determinants of Indian foreign policy. What are the major elements and minor elements, or we can say what are the major determinants of Indian foreign policy? How these factors are shaping India's foreign policy. So we will understand the key factors shaping India's external relation, and second, historical evolution of Indian foreign policy, tracing the journey of from independence to present. But I will briefly cover about the prior British's era or colonial era, so that we can connect our idea or connect our historical background and understand the formation of Indian foreign policy. Third is the impact of history on Indian foreign policy, how colonial experiences and past events continue to influence policy. And fourth, contemporary Indian foreign policy, examining current priorities, challenges, and global engagement. So, as historians and scholars, and after the literature review, there are major, identified determinants of Indian foreign policy. One is a geographical factors, economic factors, historical and cultural factors, domestic amelia and persona of leadership, ideological predilections, and international scenario. But as according to J. Bandyopadhyay, he's one of the very renowned scholar of India's foreign policy. He categorized uh, determinants of foreign policy broadly into two parts, major and minor. So, under major determinants, he includes one is the most important factor of any foreign policy, not just according to Bandyopadhyay, but in a very common general understanding that any foreign policy is based on geography, economic development, historical events, political tradition, philosophy, domestic milieu, international scenario, military strength, national character, and most important, national interest also. But he categorized also the one of minor determinants consist of political institutions, public opinion, party system, pressure groups, institution dealing with external affairs, and personality of leaders involved in shaping policy. So, dear student, as we know that how geography shapes foreign policy of any nation, similarly, it's also influence Indian foreign policy. As you can see the map of India, you can see geography of India, and it is a very beautifully God gifted and geographically made that northern Himalaya save us uh, from harsh winter, from external any adversary and attack. So geographically, India saved by Himalayan mountains and the highest mountains in the world, and it is located in northern part of India, and southern you can see visual, evidently that how India is surrounded by waters, Arabian Sea, western part of India, Arabian Sea, and very southern part of India is, There is Indian Ocean and eastern part of India, Bay of Bengal, which is a very gives significant importance to India in the world politics, because we are situated in middle of Indian Ocean. And as you all aware about that, how Indian Ocean is not just becoming, not in 21st century, but the since the ancient time, how sea is shaping world trade and history, and how it give platform to connect people, and one of the biggest source of trade, because 90% of world trade depend on sea. And if I'm not wrong, 99 or 98, but broadly define that 90% of world trade via sea. And India has blazed with geography, but at the same time, you can see the our neighbors country uh, always because we shared a history, not just history, culture and borders. So we have been witnessing, facing some border clashes, and some migration issues, and illegal trafficking, which are very critical for impacting not just Indian demography but security issues. So these are the challenges, because as our former prime minister, one of very renowned prime minister of India, stated that we cannot change our neighbor, but we can change our friends. So this is also this is also in foreign policy constraint. Your geography define your policy. If you are living in buffer state, if you don't have water access, direct sea access, then you have to negotiate with your neighbor countries, or those country who have water access, and who have direct sea access. So then you can trade with worlds. So that is advantage of Indian geography, and it really influence Indian foreign policy. So this is a very clear picture. Hindu Kush and Himalayas and Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, although there is no mention Indian Ocean, which is very important. So this is from NCRT book. And Yes. So India's geography plays a central role in shaping its foreign policy, position at heart of South Asia and projecting into Indian Ocean. India occupies a strategic location that connects East Asia, West Asia, Africa, Central Asia. Its long coastline and control of key sea lanes give it both opportunities and responsibilities in maritime security. While its land borders with China, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar make regional diplomacy and conflict management essential. Geography also underpins India's quest for energy security, as we know that China and India's both are the energy seeker countries, and how they have been negotiating with Middle East and African and Central Asia for energy security, connectivity projects, and influence in the wider Indo-Pacific. In this way, India's foreign policy is not only guided by political, historical, and economic goals, but also by imperatives of its geographic realities, which both constrain and enable its international role. So I'll also a little bit talk about India, that is Bharat. Why we call Bharat, why we call India, there is a debate among scholars and historians, but it's widely accepted in India and Bharat. Bharat, named from the Bharat Varsa and the one of the great empire of India, who conquered entire Indian subcontinent. So if you are the interested into history, and if you read history of South Asia, you will find that early India was not India. It called in Indian subcontinent. It was not divided. It was It was united and later the interred of colonial masters and how they had been played a role to divide subcontinent. So as Sri Aurobindo, he is a former politician, activist, writers, and very well known leader of Indian history. He stated that in India at a very early time, the spiritual and cultural unity was made complete and became the very stuff of the life of all this great surge of humanity between Himalayas and two seas. So, what was India before the arrival of colonial powers? As we know that um, Vasco da Gama discovered India and how colonial powers started colonization to African Asian region. But I will not discuss more about it. I'll just highlight some historical uh, pictures. So India was not the single nation state, but rather vast, diverse civilization composed of powerful empires like Mughals, early Guptas, and that Mughals, then Maurya, Guptas, and Mughal dynasty, and regional kingdoms such as the Vijayanagar, and later the Marathas. It was among the wealthiest region of the world and contributing nearly quarter of global GDP. We called uh, golden bird, sone ki chidiya, through its thriving trade in textile, spices, and handicrafts. Especially spices, textiles, and handicrafts were dominating in Europe, and European powers were very scared and cautious that it might be reduce their products in their own land, and maybe one day Indian products would be dominating entire already dominated, but they were starting to cutting down, and they made their artificial textiles so that they cannot buy more textiles and handicrafts, is silk and cotton products from India, and they started artificial, but they actually affected Indian, Indian small industries and people who were working on it. So Indian economic gradually declining after sudden cut from the European power. With flourishing ports, we had geographically, as you can see, how India has a blazed with geography and very ancient ports like Surat and Calicut connecting India to Asia, Africa, and Europe. Alongside its economic strength, India was a center of rich cultural and intellectual tradition in philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine, especially Ayurveda, and was home to multiple religions and philosophy that coexisted and shaped its identity. Known as Golden Bird, India before colonial rule was prosperous. Plural, pluralistics, yes, it was divided among kingdoms and empires. It was not united, but some kings and some empire were greatly united territory, and later divided. There is a very different history and globally connected civilization. So as if you see the historical evolution of Indian foreign policy, so we have a foreign policy even before British colonial powers came into Asia, and we had a very good connection with Southeast Asian country, Africa, Central Asian countries, and Europe, even before uh, colonize or British Raj India. So during the Cholas period and Pallava and Cholas period, these kingdoms were situated in southern part of India, were really dominating in the sense of maritime connectivity, and not just maritime connection with Southeast Asian country, but culturally they were evidently in history archaeology. You will find that the great influence of Cholas period in not just India but Southeast Asian region. Still you will find some temples in Southeast Asian region which established by Cholas empires. So we'll cover up in our next lecture civilizational influence in Southeast Asian region with historical evidence and archaeology. So, as we know that the India knows as a Sone ki Chidiya and golden birds in Indian Bollywood song portray very beautifully that जहाँ डाल डाल पर सोने की चिड़िया करती हो बसेरा वो भारत देश है मेरा, where all golden birds flying, there is my India, there is my Bharat. This song portray the prosperity of in India, and how India economy lost, and how brain drain um, started during the British Raj. We call British rule in Hindi British Raj. So after India became, so after the long struggle of freedom fighters, sacrifices lives, and our leaders, after the 200 almost years colonized by the British Raj, we got independence 15 August 1947, and we started our own foreign policy. But that was not easy to formulate, and what we can say, like it was not easy to make foreign policy during the just ended up Second World War and started Cold War era. And that time, Asian African countries were getting independence, but at the same time, they had a very serious concern about their scattered uh, economy, their scramble, society. How could they unite? How could they make their foreign policy without interference of any external powers? Because especially in Asia, India was very cautious about interference of external power. Although there is a debate among scholars about the non-alignment movement, and it non-alignment movement started under the leadership of our first prime minister, and first statecraft and first founder of Indian foreign policy, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He was not just the great leader of uh, India, but he was actively and proactively indulged and engaged in freedom movements and formation of independence India. And India often remembered for its culture, philosophy, but another key part of its past was being major hub for global trade. So that was the time where India was deciding her foreign policy after 1947. So pre-independence and Indian National Congress, even just before independence of Indian foreign policy, we had a foreign policy, but that time very um, you know uh, supported by Britishers' interest, and Indian foreign policy was focused maintaining good relation with other British colonies and supporting the interest of British Empire. That time we had a very limited diplomatic engagement, but yet we had a good relation with Russia, Japan, South Africa, because that time we had some similarity, and we are getting from the great power influence. South Africa, Zulu rebellion happened, and Indian freedom fighter inspired by tribals of South Africa who defeated to colonial power, who challenged to colonial along with the military equipped colonial powers, and Indian freedom fighter got inspired from them also. So we got inspired from various part of India who were fighting against racial discrimination and colonial discriminatory domination in their region. But at the same time, India not just was getting inspired but involving and supporting to them also. That is the uniqueness of Indian foreign policy, which even 21st century well acknowledged in international platform as a credible United Nation peacekeeping mission partner of United Nations. India has been actively participated and actively involved in UN peacekeeping mission, particularly largely in African region. So that is also very interesting case, but there is a need for separate lecture. So in 20th century, India's foreign policy began to shift as the country's independence movement gained momentum. And role of Indian National Congress worked to raise awareness about plight of India and other colonized country, and to mobilize international support for the independence movement. Promotion of India's interest. That time, not just we were fighting against the colonial powers or British Raj, but also leaders of independence movement should to promote India's interest on the global stage and improve the country's relation with others. So broadly, Indian foreign policy we can divide into two parts based on leadership. During the 1950s to 1991, and after the 1991 to 2005. So foreign policy during 1950s to 1991, based on leadership analysis. So as just I had explained about the rule of Nehru, we called Nehruvian era during 1947 to 1964. Jawaharlal Nehru, or we call Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, served from 1947 to 1964. During this time, India's foreign policy was shaped by his vision of non-aligned, independent, and democratic nation. Independence and participation, partisan. It is a very we can say sad part of Indian foreign policy. We got independent with broken territory. We were united, and we had a very large territory, but due to colonial interest and due to their political economic interest, they they played divide and rule policy, which call in India, divide and rule like tod ford niti, and we call divide and rule India. And how could British Raj can divide India, because they were very scared if India would unite, they will they would thrown to them. So they started divided India on the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, on the basis of race. And they started making inferiority among Indians, and making establish their own kind of education system, so that India cannot be revived and only serve to British Raj and their administrative purpose. So after the independence, we got independence, but we lost our territory. As you can see, current Pakistan, it was the part of India, and East Pakistan, which is called Bangladesh, was also part of India, was partitioned into two countries, India and Pakistan, and this led to mass migration of Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs across the borders and resulted in communal violence and tension between two countries. So we did not only lost our heroes or our freedom fighter, but we lost massive peoples during partition and migration. Chaos was there, panic situation was there, but thanks to our leaders, somehow they managed and convinced and settled down and followed the two state theory and peacefully managed later and started economic development, particularly India. India adopted as a secular state, and Pakistan adopted as an Islamic state. So India has been advocating secularism, brotherhood, coexistence, philosophy, and as current our foreign policy keeps saying Vasudeo Kutumbikam, one family, one earth. It is not just a statement; it is deeply connected with our culture and society. If you see the India, if you go to meet Indian families, you feel like that is your family because they love to host people and their guests. They believe guests are God, so they humbly, they kindly, they welcoming to guests. But this is very general, there is general observation. But if you see the history of ancient India, Sak, Hood, Kusan invaders are were coming and observed with Indian culture and society, and they stay forever till the Mughals. But Britishers were not like that then. So the Panchsheel, five principles, it was set up the principle for guiding relation between nations, particularly in the context of decolonization and the Cold War. These principles were mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, mutual non aggression, mutual non interference in domestic affairs, equally and mutually benefit peaceful coexistence. So, this philosophy, this principle reflected our uh, uh, or depicted our Hindu philosophy, Jainism philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, uh, says that how we how we should not interfere, how we should live peacefully with coexistence and harmony without any coercive interference. So early stage of foreign policy, you can see these principles, and therefore some scholar criticized to Nehru period of foreign policy, uh, that it was quite idealistic, not pragmatic. However, the time and situation were different. But as a scholars, we analyze both things, positive and negative aspects of leadership. Okay. So in so that is a pictures where you can see he is a Nehru, and these are the leaders of name members, and Nasir from name Nehru with Nkrumah, he's a Nkrumah from Ghana, Nasir from Egypt, and Sukarno from Indonesia, Tito from Yugoslavia, at a meeting of non-aligned nation, New York, October 1960. These five comprise the core leadership of non-alignment movement. So Nehru was the champion to establish non-alignment movement in global south, and it was not just giving direction to Asian African countries, but really helped them to decide their foreign policy. So some criticism from the western part of scholars that non-alignment was isolated foreign policy. Non-alignment was keep away from the global politics. But as a Indian scholar KP Misra, he stated that non-alignment movement is not isolated, not alienated, not separate from the global politics, but it advocated independent foreign policy without having any interference from external and any powers. So that was the concept of non-alignment. And during the Nehruvian era, United Nations membership India got, and India became founding member of United Nations in 1947 and played a key role in the organization, particularly in the areas of decolonization, disarmaments, as India always been advocated peace and coexistence. Non-alignment movement, Nehru was also key figure in establishing name which sought to promote cooperation and friendship among countries that were not aligned with any major power bloc. That time we know that how world had been divided into two blocks, USSR versus USA. The Sino-Indian War in 1962, that was the time when Nehru was hurt by this attack and shocked also, because he was keep appreciating and supporting to China. And Hindi, he given the idea of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, means India China both are brothers. And he also established Panchsheel principle, five principle of friendship, which was based on Buddhist philosophy. How could we live peacefully coexistence without having any interference and coercive against each others? So after having a good relation with China, when China attacked to India, it was not just the shock for the international arena, but shock to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, because he was giving so much importance to China, because China is our neighbor, and as he considered as a very idealist leader of India. And even the historian says, even the scholar says, India give chance to China to become permanent member of United Nations instead of India. So this conflict shifted India's focus on military modernization and strengthening of strategic alliances. India's relation with the Soviet Union during Nehru's time, India developed close political economic ties with Soviet Union, which became one of its main source of foreign aid and military assistance. So that was the era of Nehru. I'll broadly cover through this lecture for leadership, and then I'll cover the uh, historical influence in Indian foreign policy. So after the Nehru Shastri era started, and his era during the 1964 to 1966, the Indo-Pakistan, the most important things happened during the Shastri era. We call um, Lal Bahadur Shastri, the very humble prime minister and very well known prime minister of in former in prime minister of India. And his period, he was trying to build good relation with Pakistan and reduce conflict dispute region of Kashmir. Again, Kashmir region is a historically uh, based on historical analysis. Without having historical analysis, we could not understand Kashmir as a part of India and history of Kashmir and dispute of Kashmir, and how Kashmir was the reason. tension between two nations, India and Pakistan. And that time, Sastri Sastri was in Tashkent, and he established the Tashkent Declaration in the aftermath of the war of 1965. The two leaders met in Tashkent, USSR, now Tashkent in Uzbekistan, and signed the Tashkent Declaration, which called for end of hostilities and restoration of diplomatic relation between the two countries. And during this his era, the Soviet Union was a key source of foreign policy for aid and military assistance during that time. So now, after the death of Sastri, Indira Gandhi, Mrs. Indira Gandhi era started. We called in India Iron Lady, and she was the first female prime minister of India, and she knows and as a very pragmatic as and very aggressive, not just pragmatic. She shifted foreign policy from Nehru's idealism to more pragmatic and assertive foreign policy. So she established India foreign policy in a very pragmatic way. So, first characteristic and feature of Indira Gandhi foreign policy pragmatism over idealism. So, less moralistics, more focused on national interest and real politics. She strengthened Indo-Soviet relation 1971 Treaty of Friendship. So this treaty gave the direction of friendship between India and Soviet relation, and remarked clearly that India has a good relation with Soviet Union. And 1971 was the very uh, significant for the South Asian history. Sorry. So it called during the 1900s, since 1971, Bangladesh Liberation War w- was again the uh, historical movement and trajectory for South Asia, because one nation got independence from another nation, which was East Pakistan, currently we know as a Bangladesh, and it separated from Pakistan. And India supported Bangladesh independence after long movement of Bangladeshis fight against western part of Pakistan, lack of socio-economic and political development. And India actively, not just actively supported, but involved and given military support, financial support to Bangladesh. A new nation emerged in South Asia, and it again influencing India's foreign policy and India's demography, because after having the struggle and ethnic clashes in Bangladesh, immigrants are coming towards India, and Indian population increased. Indian India achieved a decisive victory over Pakistan, and give it gives uh, remarks, and it highlights that India can um, India can um, India can participated, not just participated, but help to territory, uh, uh, help to nation to get independence, and that is showing the hard power capability and of Indian foreign policy, first time in Indian history of foreign policy, elevated India's status as a regional power. And that time India got recognition as a big brother in South Asian region and got its status as a regional power. However, Varun Sahni is a well renowned professor of a former professor of Jawaharlal Nehru University and vice chancellor of Goa University. He wrote an article and he stated that India's status as a regional power in South Asia is a contested because of having the border issue and conflicts with neighbors countries. But that is the scholar critique. However, in terms of economic and politics and population, India still uh, has a status of regional power in South Asia. Non-alignment movement with strategic tilt. Non-alignment movement continuing during the Indira Gandhi era, and but till strategic tilt because we lean towards USSR due to US Pakistan China nexus, and USSR provided military and diplomatic backing UN during the 1970 war. UN votes also. And the most important development during the Indira Gandhi time was nuclear policy conducted Pokhran first. Pokhran is a region uh, and of India where a first test happened, which we called Smiling Buddha 1974, marked India's entry into nuclear club asserting strategic autonomy. That time, uh, major powers or two powers, USSR and USA, um, keep discussing about disarmament and making agreements and treaties to reduce nuclear in the world, and they offer to India sign non-proliferation of treaty, but India denied to sign any treaty, CTBT, PTBT, and NPTBT, because we were aware about the situation of our neighboring country, and especially Pakistan were also involving to making nuclear power, and we could not rely on external power and their words. So we stated that we are not making nuclear test for violence or for attack, physical attack, direct attack to our enemy, but we are making for the development. And therefore India maintained philosophical influence in Indian foreign policy. We made no first use nuclear policy in our foreign policy. That is very commendable, because without any provocation, without any attack, we would not attack to other nation. So and a fifth is a regional outreach, strengthen ties with neighbors. Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka asserted India's role in South Asia as the dominant power during the Indira Gandhi era of foreign policy. Now come into Rajiv Gandhi era. After the assassination of Indira Gandhi and longest period served in foreign policy of India and well recognized in the world history, Indira era, and we therefore we call Iron Lady. Her son got elected and became prime minister after the assassination of Indira Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi entered into Indian politics and became prime minister of India, and he served 1984 to 1989. During this era, the major development is to Sri Lankan civil war. He deployed military to in support to Sri Lanka and solve dispute ethnic dispute in Sri Lanka, and Indo-Sri Lanka Peace Accord in 1989 happened, which brought an end of the civil war. However, this civil war also, you know, give very give very contested because of after this civil war and peace accord established, again Rajiv Gandhi assassinated and lit a community bombing, um, human bombing, by human bombing, uh, Rajiv Gandhi assassinated. So this also, there is a achievement, but there is also, lost our former prime minister Rajiv Gandhi, not just lost a particular leader, but lost trust from our neighbors. So during the 1990s, now major shift was that India adopted liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The main changes that resulted LPG reforms were increased emphasis on economic diplomacy. It resulted in opening up to foreign investment and trade. Government also focused on strengthening economic ties with other countries through trade agreement, investment deals, and other initiative, which a very important doctrine. And during the prime minister of Gujarat, ik Gujarat, Indra Kumar Gujral, he established five principles to guide the conduct of foreign policy, and he was very focused on towards neighbor. He also advocated in how India should maintain good relation with immediate neighbors in South Asia, and he given principle, guided principle to conduct foreign policy with particularly immediate neighbors. As a result, we can see the Rajiv Gandhi assassination. So one is a non-reciprocity with neighbors. Territory should not be used against interest of another country. Non-interference in internal affairs, respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, settle all dispute during the peaceful bilateral negotiations. So he gave Lucist policy. In 1991, India launched its Lucist policy, which aimed to strengthen economic and political ties with countries in South Asia. And my dear student, it was not just, 20th century foreign policy of India, but it the sixth, uh, third and fourth century of foreign ancient foreign policy of India, where Cholas were dominating and having good relation with Southeast Asian countries. I will discuss later quickly. So during this particular time, after the 1991 major shift was, we adopted liberalization, privatization, and globalization, and the most important, again, the nuclear test, which showcasing which was showcasing in India's hard power in the world arena and global stage. India conducted a series of nuclear tests, which lead to international sanction, especially from US, and strained relation with United States and other countries. WTO participation. Another important event was India's participation in the World Trade Organization, which it joined in 1995. This allowed to India liberalize its economy and increase its trade with other countries. NDA first. During this time, there were no such, you know, le- uh, power, strong leadership. Um, Not just leadership. There was no particular party got a majority. So therefore, uh, alliances, politics emerge in Indian politics, but largely NDA first. Uh, led by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee in power from 1998 to 2004. And the most important, the Pokhran second nuclear test during this time, 1998, it led to international sanction against India, but also solidified India's status as a nuclear power in the world. Another most critical incident happened, and a war happened during this time. Kargil War 1999, following the series of India-Pakistan, war. India and Pakistan engaged in military conflict in the Kargil region of Jammu Kashmir. The conflict ended with the ceasefire and the withdrawal of Pakistani forces from Indian territory. So this was the victory of India, and during this time, India got again reviving, not just reviving, but started relation with US. The visit of President Bill Clinton to India in 2000 marked a significant improvement in relation between two countries. However, skeptical was there because of the nexus of US Pakistan relation with Pakistan. So that time we could not rely on US, totally US relations in our foreign policy. And during 2004 and 14, also during the Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he initiated so many policy, Lahore bus, and diplomatic talk with Pakistan to reduce tension and normalize relation. But after even had a good dialogue, diplomatic dialogue, we did not get a positive response from Pakistan and continue terrorist attack in Kashmir and other part of India, and therefore again we lost the trust from Pakistan. So this continuing continue happening in Indian foreign policy with neighboring countries, particularly Pakistan. The UPA government led by the Prime Minister of Manmohan Singh, and he also well acknowledged and recognized a very great economist, especially in the case of Indian economy, sustain Indian economy even during the crisis of financial crisis in the world. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh maintained economic growth and not got affected from financial crisis 2008. So this was broadly 2004 and 14. It was the not fully majority elected government. It was the alliances, um, the aligned government that time, but yet it was led by the Prime Minister of Manmohan Singh. So this time, major development happened. India US 123 agreement signed a nuclear deal in 2008, and which ended India's nuclear isolation, paved the way of cooperation and with the US in the civil nuclear sectors. The India China relation, the increased engagement with China, including establishment of strategic cooperation partnership in 2005 and signing of a border defense cooperation agreement in 2013. Land border agreement with Bangladesh, the resolution of long standing boundary dispute with Bangladesh in 2014 involved the exchange of 164 enclaves between two countries. So that was the achievement where we reduce tension with Bangladesh, especially territory land dispute. So we got solved during the Prime Minister Modi, and Lookist policy continue during this time. And India Asian Free Trade Agreement happened in 2008, which remarked that our boost trade and investment between two regions. UN Security Council reform. The government made a strong push for India to give a permanent seat on UN Security Council as a part of efforts to increase India's global influence. NDA to 2014 and present. So, present foreign policy after the uh, Manmohan Singh, no, UPA foreign policy, it's a mistaken written under the leadership of Narendra Modi, and he got elected majority, or we call Modi era, this particular, time, and up 2014 to 2025, and Modi was become the popular prime minister after the Indira Gandhi and Nehru, and he also continue historical legacy of philosophical legacy of Indian foreign policy. But he actively, proactively indulge, and he proactively involvement and visiting to not just neighbor country but far away of neighbors, especially when he took office. He immediate visit to our neighbors country and our far neighbor countries like Central Asia, Kazakhstan, and Russia, and Middle East, and Africa, and Southeast Asian countries. So he prioritized his foreign policy to give not just an immediate foreign policy, but also far away our extended neighborhood foreign policy. And SCO Shanghai Cooperation Organization membership, India, Pakistan were admitted at this time during the Modi era 2014 to 2025 as a full member to the SCO. Why it was very important? Because we are surrounding by this nation, and we must have a membership of SCO to make our region most peace and stay, not just stable, uh, but for economic development and for corridor development. So this was the uh, achievement initially, and then the in first episode of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India US strategic partnership was very progressed and very commendable, and later now it deteriorating currently. The third episode of Modi era of foreign policy, sustainable development and commitments. So, India's participation in the Paris Climate Agreement, and during the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, not just we are advocating climate change, but also we are implementing in India and also African region. The very good example is solar energy, renewable energy. Has been significant step in India's foreign policy. Now I'll come into again my topic, historical roots and influence of Indian foreign policy, how it has been influencing. We can see the Indian foreign policy mix, um, continuity and changes. Civilization and cultural, as I'll discuss in our next class. But ancient Indian civilization promoted peace, trade, and cultural exchange. Concept of dharma, ahimsa, and Raj dharma influenced in foreign policy. The historical trade links with Southeast Asia, Africa, especially Ethiopia during the Aksumite empires, and Ethiopian slaves adopted in India, and they are still living. We call Siddhi community in India and Middle East, and from modern economic diplomacy. So historical lesson, relations from during the colonial time, before the colonial time and the ancient time, and during the 20th century, Nehru to 1991. And we continue the non-alignment movement, but in a very different terminology. Now we use strategic autonomy, but is intention is same. We are not still not want to go with any alliance and any particular powers. We want to make our own independent strategic um, you know policy without having interference and as per our national interest. So case study, we can see the India Africa engagement, civilizational trade links, guide modern partnership, particularly Indo Pacific region, Chola's empires. And as we just discussed, that Lookist policy, now Modi era, very dynamic leadership act, we implemented policy act East policies, become the hallmark phrases in Indian foreign policy. But it is not just the recent development, it is the very deep rooted prehistoric trade, cultural exchange, and religious influence which persisted for centuries until the disrupted Western colonial dominance in 18th and 19th century. In this sense, contemporary policy can be seen as an enactment of deja vu, reaffirming India's enduring historical connection with the region while adapting modern geopolitical economic realities. So this is a map where you can see how Chola's empire was in Southeast Asian region during the 19th and 13th century CE, flourished under rulers of Rajendra Chola first, as they established naval dominance over Southeast Asian trade routes and strengthened diplomatic relations with Srivijaya, modern Indonesia and Malaysia. So, this is the current and case study of Kautilya's Arthashastra is a very well adopted in Indian foreign policy. I will discuss in our next class how Kautilya, also known as the Chanakya, was the ancient Indian scholar and strategist. 4th century, my dear student, we only emphasize the realist thinker, often discuss the Western scholar like Machiavelli, but we do not that much highlight the during the Chandragupta Maurya uh, period of Kautilya strategy, and he was a great strategist, and he you know establish theory how state can can save from adversary and from the enemy, from even neighbor's country. So he gave so many theories and concept like Saptang theory, Raj Mandala theory. I will discuss with map and uh, his strategy and how it influenced in Indian foreign policy. So during the Maurya, Chandragupta Maurya, one of the very famous ancient era of Indian history, it influenced still Indian foreign policy. That is another very important case study. And now I'm concluding that Indian foreign policy continuity of historical principle adapted to modern global realities and balances civilizational identities, principles, strategic autonomy, global partnership. Understanding historical roots is a crucial for analyzing contemporary foreign policy. These are the books which are very important. I would share with your professor so you can get these references and articles and official websites. So now I'm going to stop my presentation. Yes, yes.
Thank you so Thank you, Kshipra.
Yes.
I guess you can take two questions from the auditorium if there are any.
Yes. Can we open our cameras if possible? If
Yes,
not,
to open your camera if possible. Yes, there will be more questions as they might be tired. No, they do have questions. Did you say? Yeah. Even if it's not, she says that it's not so much connected with the lecture, but she would like to interact.
yes, yes.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you all.
Could you please tell us about Chabahar Agreement? So, among Afghanistan, Iran, and India, and as far as I know, like Iran has sanctions from United States, and how this agreements maybe affect on relations with United States?
With Iran, Chabar.
Yeah, Chabahar Agreement.
Can you repeat your question?
I no.
But your voice is breaking. Can you just try? What is the implication of Chabar?
Right.
Okay, okay. So, even yes, I mean, India just got a 10-year extension with Iran to continue Chabar project. It was stagnant, and then Iran was trying to negotiate and then say that it should be on time. So we just got 10 years of extension Chabar, which is a very critical, not just for the India, for the Russia also. We can direct connect with St. Petersburg through the north south international corridor. So this is a very critical agreement um, established with between India and Iran. And Iran, as you know, the our historical, we have a very cultural exchange with Iran. But not just your question is a very strategically important that Iran has been facing sanction from US, and this Chabar agreement will give economic development for both country Iran and India. But you can see the current foreign policy of India, US towards India is a quite contested because of the 50% of reciprocal tariffs. So it may we can say that US is not happy uh, towards India, but we are not depend on Trump direction. We have our own strategic autonomy, and as per our national interest and geographical, geopolitical demands, we move forward. Yes, I hope I, I can satisfy your
My
question.
proposal would be that we will end the Q&A session now. They will have this analog your which will be available so that the meet is something that will look like. But I have a special request. Can you just sing a little of the kind of orchestra me?
Yeah, can I say?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
please do sing.
yes, yes,
So,
Professor.
Raja.
Okay, and this is very surprising for me. Demand from your professor, and she's a very not just beautiful person, but very brilliant. I admire her knowledge, especially cultural. And my dear student, without having understanding of language, culture, I have a challenges. I don't know your language. I don't know your culture, but I am willing to know. And without having cultural
You must
aspects,
know. We will teach you.
yeah, we cannot understand foreign policy. So I'm going to sing as a demand of your professor this song. Okay. शिव कैलासों के स्वामी धारी धारों के राजा संकर संकाट हरना संकर संकाट हरना शिव कैलासों के स्वामी धौली धारों के राजा संकार संकाट हरना संकार संकाट हरना. I hope I have done. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you very much, Professor Akbota, to
Thank
to
you
your
so
encourage and guidance. And I'm very happy to connect with you all and looking forward to more lecture and interaction, question, and your remarks and even your opinion. And I always welcome to India and looking forward.
much. Our colleagues will do with me. Learn is all over. And they were actually saying that your English is very clear for them to understand. Because let's face it, there's none of us accounts. So it's difficult for us to understand some of the pronunciations you were speaking clearly. They were so like sometimes beautiful. So like I'm so much grateful because it is a lecture about India. I'm listening a lecture about India for Kazakh one. So thank you so much. You made our day beautiful, yeah. And
Yes,
students are so great. Continue next week.
yes. Maybe have
Yeah.
pic- group picture. Can we have a group picture?
Group.
Yes.
No? Or how do we do it?
I'm also trying.
Let's try to do it if we can. It's possible or like this.
Let me.
No?
Yeah. Um, I'm taking from my side, but I'm not getting. Can someone? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I can. Now I can.
Someone said you will come to Kazakhstan and have the in vivo like
Yes, I will share. I'm looking forward to come Kazakhstan and see you there. Discuss with more. Yes. Have a good day to all of you and Professor Agbota. And it was really nice to interaction with you. And good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.